Hi, welcome to the Modern Renaissance Show, Modern Renaissance Man Show. Excuse me, my name is Ben Copeland. Welcome to the show. Had to start it off wrong. Anyway, we go with what we got. Speaking of which, let's talk about Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools, going with what they got. They're going with the best quality teachers going to the worst schools. Now, have you heard that lately? We're going to improve the schools by taking all the best teachers. What do you think? First off, half the teachers are probably going to quit. The thing that reminds me of, I think we're getting some buzz back. That reminds me of was when my stepson was in elementary school, and they said, well, we'll just take him. He's a nice young man, and we'll put him with the worst students, because it'll help them to be better students. Well, actually, what ended up happening is that he kept coming home saying, why am I being punished? CMS, you send your best teachers always to the worst schools, you're probably going to get the same kind of reaction. Why are they being punished? I think cough up some bucks, get some quality teachers in here. That's where it comes down to. But they're also proving that money does not necessarily make the schools better. There's been some real proof of that because we're throwing away a lot of money. And I know I did an interview for an IT job about 2 years ago, and I saw how much they were throwing away. I'm glad I'm not there. Speaking of somewhere else I'm glad I'm not in New Orleans and having to live under Mayor Nagel. Who is this guy, Nagel? This is a guy that compares Katrina to the bombing of the World Trade Center in August of this year. But this guy basically said, well, it's a big hole in the ground or something like that. I'm like, who are you, dude? I mean, you had a weather problem. Yes, it killed some people and it devastated the city. But I don't think you can compare getting attacked by terrorists to, having a weather problem. Your city's below the ocean level anyway. I think you ought to think about why do you want to live in your hole in the ground? Let's do something about New Orleans, Maybe you should move out a little bit farther away from the ocean. Which takes a commitment. And speaking of commitments, I have come to realize that people who don't use their turn signals have commitment problems. That's what it's got to be. They just can't commit in life. So, of course, they're not going to commit to which way they're going to turn. So next time you see them, you see somebody basically not using a turn signal, have a little empathy and sympathy for them. Just know they probably can't commit. They probably have a bad marriage. They probably can't get a job. They probably only go for about 3 or 4 years, and they're quitting their job. They get commitment problems. And I found out recently that actually BMWs and Volvos do make cars that have turn signals. I thought that was an option.
What's that clicking noise?
That's right. What does that sound? Commitment phobias. So, have a little empathy and sympathy for them. One of the things that I've been noticing in the advent of the 9/11, we just had recently, a couple months ago, had the anniversary, was the issue of what's worse, a rich liberal or a rich conservative. Now, I've been debating that one lately. The rich liberals, they seem to know how everybody feels, and let's throw some money at it and make them all feel better. Then the rich conservatives don't know how anybody feels and don't want to know how everybody feels, and let's don't throw any money at that either, unless it keeps them out of my backyard. So we'll do that. What's worse, rich liberals, rich conservatives? I'm still debating that one. And speaking of debating, I'm going to stand up and share with you some of my personal thoughts about a soapbox issue. One of the things that came to light recently was the issue of personal litigation, suing people. Many of you know that I've had an interest in buying an airplane, and my favorite airplanes are basically those that are either kit built or home builds, basically the experimental category of aircraft. You can get a quality aircraft that's efficient, fun to fly, and safe. The concerns there for a lot of the builders is that they'll get sued by somebody. I had a gentleman that was willing to sell me his plane. Well, we checked it out with some professional attorney sources. Showed some ways to do a contract. We had a contract, we had an agreement ready to go, and he talked to some private lawyers. She said they wouldn't do it, and he didn't. So he backed out. The issue was not with me. I would sign the waiver. The issue these lawyers talking about was, what if I carried somebody and we had an accident? They could sue him as the builder. And you know, that's correct. They could, because we have a very sue-happy society of people suing for everything. And I look at that. So I started thinking about it. I remember walking out of my job once, and a car was coming close to somebody, and this guy said, "Oh, if they hit me, I'll sue them." And I looked at him and I said, "Well, I don't know about you, but my legs aren't worth $1 million. You know," and he was, "Oh, well, I guess maybe not. You know, why are you going to sue? Get out of the way, idiot. Don't trust the brakes." People suing years ago for hot coffee. They spilled hot coffee and got burnt. It's hot coffee, people. What do you expect? It's going to, if you spill it, you're going to get burned. You got to be careful with it. They sue for it. My wife fell at church. First thing somebody says, "You okay? You're not going to sue the church, are you?" Let it go, people. Let's don't sue everybody. That's where we're heading this society. It scares me that we are so much wanting to blame somebody besides George. We want to blame. It doesn't matter if it's our responsibility. 14-year-old girl, a couple months ago, on this place, myspace.com, website kind of thing, she basically ended up getting some type of abusive situation with a guy through the course of this website. Where were her parents? Why was she on the internet with anybody checking into it? Parents not taking responsibility for the children's behavior. They're wanting to blame somebody else for being a bad parent. I'm getting tired of that. Let's sue them. Let's blame them. It's their fault. A couple years ago, a guy sued Charlotte Mecklenburg Schools. And I blame the school system for a lot of stuff, but here's the one that this is an individual's fault. He blamed the school system, created a lawsuit, totally messed up everything that was in place that had been working fairly well with regard to how Charlotte Mecklenburg was dealing with the distribution of students, because his daughter couldn't go 1.5 miles away to a school. That's where I understand it. But he messed the whole system up, and we have not recovered from that yet. Of course, his daughter no longer goes to Charlotte Mecklenburg Schools, I understand. And this is a guy, just so you know, and I really don't care to mention his name because it doesn't impress me. I think he's the one that publishes the Rhino Times. So next time you read that rag, think about the guy that screwed up Charlotte Mecklenburg school system as if they didn't need help from somebody else, you know? And that's the way I feel. Before we move on to the band, I want to say I'm sitting here and I got some rough-looking jeans. I don't know if anybody picked up. Maybe you never even really noticed what I'm wearing. Maybe you do. I always try to pay attention to it, being the vain person that I am. I came from a Habitat house and didn't mention it on the last show. Worked 3 days helping build a Habitat house. If you want to get out of yourself and do something, find some volunteer groups such as that to go down and help out. Maybe go to the hospitals. There's various kind of ways you can participate. Get out of yourself, do something good for somebody. And if you fall down, don't sue them. Take responsibility for yourself. And with that, let's have some good tunes, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ben. I just finished writing this song, and it may offend you, and if it does, please don't sue Ben. Everybody said trade it in, but I just wouldn't listen. And the timing chain broke, she's blowing smoke through a crack in a piston. Now I've been deeply attached to that old big block, but there's a blizzard in hell when parts are in stock. When she idles for reasons that remain undetected. Heaven knows where the vacuum holes, they should all be connected. Is it belts, is it gaskets pulled, is those seals? There's 2 or 3 puddles between the front wheels. I leave the keys in it with the windows rolled down, parked on the curb on the worst side of town. I come back, she's always there. It's just my luck. even a crackhead won't steal my truck. Every part that breaks was discontinued back in 1980. But there's one in a box in a barn in a village in Haiti. It'll cost a few grand to get it shipped here, and it might show up by the end of next year. I leave the keys in her with the windows rolled down, parked on the curb on the worst side of town. I come back, she's always there. It's just my love. I guess even a crackhead won't steal my truck. Every shudder and every backfire is a cause for panic. I need a tractor trailer load of Valium for my mechanic. The title's on the dash right next to the keys. I can get around better on my hands and knees till she runs right down to the ground. I guess I'm stuck. Even a crackhead won't steal my truck. Steal my truck. Come on, blister lip, take it. Steal my truck. You'll never call it joy riding again if you steal my truck.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess you have to walk over here since I stole it. Anyway, thanks for joining us. I've been a couple of the Modern Renaissance Band. That was Trip Rogers, Jeff Chester. Wonderful tunes as usual. For those of you that watched the show last week, you now see this stripe. I don't know if that's bothering anybody or not. That's not a warning for some kind of bombing or anything coming in, or a weather service or issue. That's the red light I used to use as a volunteer firefighter when I was 16 years old.
I used to use one of those like that to pretend I was Starsky and Hutch. Put it on the top of my red car with the white. Okay, never mind.
I never knew that.
But see, mine was legal.
I just did it for fun, just around the neighborhood.
I had fun too, but generally the police weren't after me.
Trip. What do you mean?
Nothing there.
You know, Trip and I are like the Starsky and Hutch of the music scene around here.
Well, then let's do the host cam. We gotta get Starsky and Hutch over here. There they are. That's it. Which one's which?
We're interchangeable.
I'm not surprised.
What do you mean by that?
There's some audience that we got up there.
Like every time
people in the green room and
everybody waves.
That's all right. They're gonna beat me up later on. They're both bigger than me, so I'll have to run fast after the show.
Yeah, but we're pretty effeminate.
Hey, I can.
I might hit you with my drum bag.
Anyway, the host cam. We invented the host cam. At least we claimed he did. And if you disagree, send a letter to George, because we really want to know about it.
Right.
We still say we claimed it. The host cam.
You know, they used the host cam was one of the only weapons of mass destruction that they found in Iraq.
Yeah, he's gonna do it again, Ben.
Don't
let him do it.
Sorry.
I have never been to Iraq, so I know that's not true.
I was just trying to be funny.
They would have found it. That's okay. For those of you that didn't tune in on the last show, you missed a good little discussion there between Jeff and I in particular, as we shut down Tripp and didn't let him speak, and we talked about the 9/11 basically anniversary. Which made the show fun. It went by fast.
Tripp's going to be the only one of the three of us who doesn't have the feds knocking at his door after the show.
Hey, I know I'm on their list.
Hey,
I got the Secret Service knowing about me since I sent Clinton the first letter. Let alone when I invited George to come to the anniversary. But that was funny.
Hey, I still have an impeached Nixon bumper sticker on my car. So
poor old Nixon.
Yeah,
that's what Fleabite will do to you. Still trying to get my airplane. Don't know where it's at, but I still got the one from the Few Fan Club. Speaking of bombings, a stealth fighter of all things. As if I want to buy one, a recreational vehicle. But that was a nice gesture. They gave me the plane. Movies. Last time we had an old Clint Eastwood. Now I've got one here. One I'm going to show you first. I know this one you know about because everybody should watch this. But this is a simple one. This one everybody knows about this. Just about Blade Runner.
Oh yeah.
From the library.
Oh, yeah.
Go to your public library. They got the best prices of any movies you can find. As long as you're not late, they're free. Go to the public library. It's a great source of movies. This is Blade Runner. This is an interesting one about basically clones in the future. And it's a police kind of show. But it's a real thing. Harrison Ford. I always liked Harrison Ford. I got the movie for you, though, Jeff.
Okay.
I don't think you know this one.
And all I can say about Blade Runner, one word, classic.
It is. It's a good, and that's the director's cut, too.
Oh,
this is called The City of Lost Children.
Oh, yeah. Dynamite film, man.
The City of Lost Children. Let me read what it's about for those of you that have not heard of it. A gutsy little girl and a sentimental strongman, which is Ron Perlman.
That's the Trip and Jeff story.
Gutsy girl, isn't
That's right. He's a gutsy girl. Joined hearts and hands to save a small boy's dreams from a madman's master plan. Phenomenal French duo. Oh, I can't even pronounce that. Junet and Caro, something like that. Anyway, deliver a fantastically twisted fairy tale chock full of curious characters, spectacular stunts, and unforgettable visuals. I love that, visuals. So actually, I haven't even watched it yet, so we don't know yet if it's a classic because I have to watch it and have to fall asleep. And if I fall asleep, it's probably going to be a cult classic.
It is really good.
But I've been wanting to see it. Actually, I've seen the box and just haven't made it to it.
When do y'all watch these, man?
Go to your public library. A lot of times,
While the guy's cutting my grass.
If I'm not at a bachelor party, I don't see movies.
let's not talk about your movies. We ain't going there. Anyway, go to the library. Library's got great videos. I like to get them. If I get them on tape instead of DVD, I have a VCR in my kitchen sink, so when I clean up and wash dishes at night and whatever.
Oh, you wash dishes?
Oh, it's that. Yeah, well, put
That's
it
why I
in the
don't
dishwasher.
watch
Yeah. So anyway, yes, I do. I have my own sewing machine. Do you sew?
You're still ahead of me, man.
Okay. Can you lace your shoes up? No, you got boots
What
on.
do you think?
Yeah.
Anyway, what do I want to talk about some tonight? We're having trouble finding guests. If you know somebody wants to be a guest, we came up with one name tonight of somebody come down. Maybe they just part of it's the Slack producer, and I won't have to talk to him about that. We have a Slack producer.
We have a producer?
Yeah, you can read the credits on the end. You'll find out about him. So I'm going to have to work on him. The writer's okay. Anyway, that producer got to work on getting guests in time. We had one who was trying to come down who would have been a real good Renaissance man. So we're going to work on that. If you know of a guest, and we didn't even mention the website last show, mrmtv.org. That's if you want to send me something, mrmtv.org. You can send an email to mrm@together.net, and you can go to Trip Rogers, triprogers.com or gailwarning.com if you want to find out things about the band. Or you go to my website, that'll point you to theirs. Go to theirs, it'll point you to mine. We're just a sort of family here, and sort of spread the wealth, which for us is basically pizza. Share the pizza. But if you know somebody that you think would be a good candidate for the show, send an email. And or get on and do a little blog site entry thing, which is a weenie website.
Because I know people are getting tired of us being on here.
I think we're pretty, y'all pretty humorous. You're definitely different, Jay.
Well, thanks.
and people get off on the hats. I mean, I do.
It's just the funky hats. That's all. These are the only places
we have
I
a
get
fan
to wear
club actually. They actually circulate flyers about us.
Really?
Yeah, they're all located out in Derrida. But, and speaking of Derrida, let's talk about Charlotte. That was the topic I wanted to get into tonight. Let's talk about the growth of Charlotte and. Now, Trip's basically a native. Mm-hmm. And how long have you been around, Jeff?
I lived here for 8 years. I moved away for 4, and I've been back for 6.
That's pretty
so, a while.
Well, let's talk about, Trip, what, I guess part of the things is the idea of, what do you see, I guess, is sort of your concerns about the city of Charlotte and the growth of the city of Charlotte? What's going on? What you've seen, say, in the last, 15 so years or more? All the way to the present.
The traffic and the sameness. We're putting the same strip malls with the same chains everywhere. My wife and I just flew out to Phoenix last week for a few days, and we stayed in an area of town. She was there for work seminar. We stayed there.
I cut it off intentionally.
In a place that had the same. It was the same thing. It could have been Charlotte with tumbleweeds. It was a strip mall, same chains and everything. That and traffic are my big concerns. That's another thing I noticed in another city. They had a lot of traffic, but they just seemed to be more polite. Mm-hmm. And, when you're a Southerner and somebody's more polite than you, that gives you something to think about.
Mm-hmm. Well, but once we get this light rail thing happening, all our traffic problems are going to go away.
He's going to do it again, Bill.
I'm just saying.
Actually, I think for a change, we actually agree on that.
I'm being very sarcastic.
The only thing that I've seen about the light rail that I find is going to be good is that if you can't afford to go to Carowinds, you can probably jump on the light rail, because I've been watching this thing, and it's up and down and up and down. And I tell you what, you talk about issues, worried about people suing for hot coffee. You go riding that thing, you better have a lid in your cup. Because I've been watching, it's just a big bunch of hills.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to scream up South Boulevard, and I tell you what, if they go more than 25, 30 miles an hour, you're going to be dumping your stuff, and you get to work and you'll be ready to get off of it and go to work and sit down for a while. But yeah, I don't know if it's going to buy anything.
I don't know how it's going to go.
Well, they only recommended doing it about 25 years ago.
Right.
30 years ago, when they had this committee of 100 that they sent all over the United States and came back and said, you need to do light rail and put that in place, and then he's be before the turn of the century.
Right.
Yeah. But they didn't say which century. That's the problem.
We're just too addicted to driving.
Yeah.
And we're just too used to it. You go to cities that have always had mass transit, like New York or Chicago, where basically generations of people have grown up taking the subway, taking buses, taking trains, and it's just an entirely different mindset from being someplace where you grow up driving.
Which I find interesting, considering the amount of influx of people coming into this area. They're not pushing a little bit more. I mean, all you hear them is they gripe. Traffic's bad. Traffic, this and this and that. Well, but you're not hearing them really present the solutions.
Carpet-bagging Yankees are always going to gripe about stuff wherever they move. Ooh, that's right. I said it.
Is anybody left in New Jersey? I got out of college. The whole state of New Jersey was on Carmel Road. Who's still up there? Bruce Springsteen, the one we would like to have.
Right. Okay, well, let's talk about this. What do you think's the best thing about Charlotte?
Oh, the silence.
Let's see. The music? No, there's no real support for that.
You make me think about Neil Young.
No, there's no real
Southern
support
man don't
for
need
that.
him around anyhow.
No real support for the arts. No real support for music. If it's older than 10 years, if a building's older than 10 years, do we tear it down?
And that's the best.
I'm drawing
the
the
Great
best.
Stella Center is probably the best thing.
Yeah, really.
No, I think we have a growing music and arts community.
Really.
And that's been encouraging the last 5 or 6 years. We've noticed more of that. But it is definitely a grassroots thing, and
grassroots means no money.
Exactly. It means if you don't.
There's lots of great music out there, and lots of great art here in this town, but not the mass public support.
One of the things that bothers me a lot, and this I've mentioned on the show before, is that it costs to do everything. You got the Levine Museum of the New South. You know what it reminds me of? You know how much it costs. People that are basically in the museum can't afford to go to that museum.
Right.
Doesn't cost too much to get in. So I'm like, okay, this is sort of a joke. I guess that's the New South. We're going to charge a bunch of money for everything. Discovery Place, that's an arm and a leg. I do once a year with my daughter because that is a fortune, let alone, the OmniMax. And that's a lot of money go do something.
Well, Charlotte always plays it safe. And I mean, that's the thing. And a lot of, I don't want to sound despairing about that, but there will always be support for the in-the-box kind of stuff, the safe ballet, the safe symphony, anything that's outside the box, anything that's a little edgy does not get the public support. And there is edgy art and edgy music and stuff that's experimental going on here, but it just doesn't have the mass public support.
Sometimes I wonder when I hear people talking about they come in, because the first thing I heard was that I hate the way people drive down here, and I'm like, 90% of the people in the building I work in are from down here. So when you talk about that, let's think about that one, and they end up agreeing. But it's the thing of if we got the influx of people, I don't know, I guess I would just expect to see true diversity. But I know a lot of these people that when they say, well, I'm going to go home for the weekend, they're not talking about Charlotte.
Right.
They're talking about somewhere else.
Yeah, that's very true.
And that's a lot of, so it's sort of like they don't have, other than maybe the Panthers, whoop-de-doo. That's
the Panthers are great.
Panthers
are great.
But my point, though, is that
what was that score the other night? 80-3.
Is that
sorry?
Is that what it takes
against the Falcons?
Takes to
my high school football team played the
bond
Falcons.
the city is the Panthers. I thought maybe that's who was playing the Falcons.
You think about the people moving to Charlotte, though, they're not moving here to bring diversity. They're moving here because they're being hired by companies looking for the same thing. So we're getting more of the exact same.
And it's
Very good point.
the cost of living here compared to so many other places, especially up north. The cost of living here is a lot lower.
Yeah,
the weather's so much
sell
milder.
You sell a house up there and come down here and buy a mansion.
Exactly.
Speaking of which, here's a good one for you. This is one I thought of earlier in the day as I was sort of writing the shows. Buy a piece of property, whatever, build you the cheapest raggedy old house, it really don't matter. Put a big fancy wall around it, and everybody thinks you're rich. And they can't see it, so who knows? And it so you can live in trailer trash practically.
get a
If you got a
golf
fancy,
cart.
and get your golf cart. And on that golf cart note, the worst of Charlotte is the walls that you can't see the people's house at, and because you don't know if they're trailer trash or not. I'll probably get notes
Or
now
if they're
from
goofball
the trailer
artists like
trash.
us who in there.
I could be living beside you.
Yeah, really.
With that, we're going to have to start heading on out the door. And so I'm going to ask you guys, y'all want to take us out on some tunes again?
Sure, man.
If you know of a guest like to come down and join the show, please send me an email, mrm@together.net. Check out a little website there, mrmtv.org. Sounds official, org, because we make no money. Actually, that was what was available. Check us out, send some email. Who's available? I always want to thank my volunteers for coming down and doing the show. Without them, it just wouldn't happen. Dano, you're the man, my director. Dean on audio. Jennifer matches the green room. Kate Copeland, best girl, key grip, and remote host, cam operator. Thanks everybody for joining us, and let's go out with some nice tunes from Trip Rogers and Jeff Chester, and have a good evening and join us soon. I'm Ben Copeland, moderator and designer. Good night.